Hi, and welcome back to JenTalks. And I have chosen a breathing exercise for you this week on the theme that we've been working on for the last few weeks around incorporating small, simple exercises on a daily basis that have a huge impact. So, the title of the talk is How to Master Anxiety Using 4-6-8 breathing. And there's lots of different variations on this. Some people like 4-7-8 breathing, some people like 5-7-8 breathing, but this is the one that I find works for me. Really, the numbers don't matter as much as the technique and the fact that you're going to remember how to do it. So the reason why I like 4-6-8 is because when I'm working with my students or my clients, I give them the little reminder of that ditty, 2-4-6-8, who do we appreciate? And then, as crazy as that might sound, and we get a good giggle, they remember that. They make an association with that in their mind. So if that's giving you a giggle today and it helps to stick in your mind, so be it. I don't mind being the brunt of a joke for the purpose of you remembering the breathing exercise. The other thing I want to say is before we go into the technique of the breathing exercise, I want to explain why this is so powerful. Most people lean on the tools or reach for the tools when they're already in the middle of the storm. The piece that we spoke about the last couple of weeks around consistency really comes into the forefront when we talk about this exercise, because what this one does is this is an emotional resetting breath work exercise. So what we mean by that is if your central nervous system is out of sync and you are more leaning into the stress response, in other words, the overactivity, the hyperactivity of the mind, this exercise out of them all resets it. So it's not just a case of maybe just doing it daily. It's a case of doing it 2 to 3 times a day. So I would say in the morning, sometime during the day, and at night before you go to sleep. So if you think about it like morning, noon, and night, or sometimes my students like to say like breakfast, lunch, and dinner, or breakfast, tea, and supper. Think of it like sporadically throughout the day, that there's a gap. It's not just 3 times in a row in the morning, that there's time for the mind to be trained. So what we're doing by doing this exercise is we're informing the brain that there's something out of sync and we would like to reset it. So that's the first purpose of this. So what we do is we do this breath work 3 times a day for 2 to 3 weeks, maybe even 4 weeks, depending on your habit cycle. And it's resetting the nervous system so that instead of it being stuck in what we call the stress response, we go back to that lovely seesaw effect of moving between rest and digest and stress response regularly, like our healthy central nervous system will be. And think of it like a car. You want to move forward, you need the accelerator. That's our energy, that's our activating mode. That's what the stress response brings. Then if we want to slow down and move into rest and digest response, it's like the brake on a car. So you never want to just be on the brake and you never just want to be on the accelerator. It's the balance between the two. So sometimes life causes trauma, it causes extreme chronic or acute stress, and then we get stuck in that response. We get stuck in the hyper vigilant, hyper stressed out mode. So if you recognize that in yourself, you want to reset it, this is the breath for you. And the reason why I've linked it to anxiety is because anxiety is the physical manifestation of your brain being stuck in the stress response. So when you are already caught in that stress response, the brain has no way of communicating with you like the rest of the physical body has pain, has physical pain. If you lift things that are too heavy, your back will tell you, or you overdo it in the gym or whatever it might be. If you're wearing the wrong shoes, your feet will give you pain. The brain doesn't have that feedback device. So what it uses as a feedback device is anxiety. I like to think of anxiety like your brain sends out the little white flag, like surrender, like please help. We cannot continue like this any longer. We need to do something about it, because otherwise, how would we know that something is up if we didn't have some sort of physical sensations? So our physical sensations for anxiety, anyone that suffered from it before will know that it's different for everybody. For some people, it's in the tummy, that's your vagus nerve clenching and retracting all of the time. For some other people, it's like a clench in their chest, like like almost like their chest is caving in them. We've got anything from sweaty palms to headaches to vomiting, earache, lots of different symptoms for anxiety. But here's the ultimate key is that all of those symptoms are leading you back to the idea that your brain or your mind is in trouble and it needs help. It needs you to slow it down. It needs you to reactivate your rest and digest. And it's maybe something you can't do on your own if you keep going the way you have been going. If you always do what you've always done, you're always going to get what you always got. So if you want something different, you got to do something different. And this is the breath work that's going to be different. So the other breath works are really kind of like you do for 2 or 3 minutes per day, every single day. This one you can continue afterwards as a maintenance breath if this is one you enjoy. But to begin with, you need it almost like prescriptive, 2 to 3 times a day for 2 to 3, possibly 4 weeks till you feel the alleviation. And is it going to get rid of anxiety forever and ever and ever? No. It's not possible for me to say that anything can do anything forever. And no doctor on the world, in the planet, can even say the same. What you have to say is what we can do is we can always improve, and we can always benefit our mind and our brain from the exercises that we do. And also what we can say is that anxiety will come less often, and it'll stay around for less often because you're training your brain now how to activate the rest and digest, and how to pause as opposed to working like the car again, going back to the accelerator, just going vroom, vroom, constantly. We need to also take our foot off the gas sometimes and just brake and pause. And that's really good for the physical body, and more importantly, your actual mind and your physical brain as well. So what we want to do is, how do we do it? Okay, so again, as you know, from any previous videos you watch, or maybe this is your first time watching JenTalks, is to say when we talk about breath work, we always, where possible, breathe through the nose. So the nose is for breathing, the mouth is for eating. Of course, there are times when we breathe through the mouth, and that can be when we're physically exercised and we need to take a big gasp, all in one go, a lot of air in at once. That's when we use the mouth. Or possibly we have a blockage or something that's getting in the way, maybe a cold or a physical blockage that gets in the way of our nose breathing. So where possible, we breathe in through the nose and breathe as if you're smelling. So we can get it all the way down into our belly area, which is really, we're pressing all the way down to the bottom of our lungs, which pushes the diaphragm down, and the belly blows up like a balloon. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to hold the breath then, and we're going to hold it for the count of 6. So depending on your own capacity, you count as fast or as slowly as you can, as you're comfortable to do so. You never put your body under any strain. So for some people, the count might be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And for other people, it might be 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, 6,000. That's a long time to hold your breath. If you're getting dizzy, that's an indication that you're breathing too slowly or you're holding your breath for too long. And then your final one then is breathing out for the count of 8. And again, breathing out through the nose if possible, because it's easier. Or if you prefer to breathe out through the mouth, that's perfectly fine, because what you're going to do is you're going to blow as if you're blowing out candles. So it's like, now, when I'm teaching my students or clients, they often find the controlling of the breath is easier when you blow through the mouth. But in the long run, if you can learn to control your breath by breathing out through your nose to begin with, it's much easier in the long run, because first of all, you can breathe anywhere. Nobody knows what you're doing. You're inhale and exhale and hold and all that stuff if you're using the nose, because it's not quite as obvious, and it's certainly not as noisy. And then secondly, then when you're breathing in and out through the nose, it's a more natural breath. So you just have to go. There's not as much effort that goes into it. So I'm going to demonstrate both for you. And then I want you to continue with the exercise and continue for the count of 10. So what I usually do is I count up to 5 and then I go from 5 down to 1. So I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 when I'm counting my own breaths. And do it on your hand because it's very easy to lose count because you're already counting the breath. You're going in for the count of 4, holding for the count of 6 and out for the count of 8. So that's 1. And then the next inhale, you're going to count 2, 3, 4, 5. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Do you get me? You're using your hands to help you count on your 10 breaths. And don't worry if you need to pause in the middle of the 10 breaths. I had to do it this morning. I was doing my breath work and I got to number 3 and I had to jump up and do something. And then I sat back down and I continued on. So ideally in a row, but 10 is 10. You know, if you can get your 10 breaths in, get your 10 breaths in, whatever way you possibly can. So just to demonstrate then what the breath actually looks like. So when we say in for the count of 4, if you can imagine, like that's a 4. We're going to hold now for the count of 6. That's a 6 on my count. That's comfortable for me. And then I'm going to exhale for the count of 8. And that's 8. So that for me is quite manageable. But don't forget, I do a lot of breath work. I do breath work daily for my own practice. And I also do a lot of breath work in the clients and classes that I teach. So what's easy and comfortable for me may not be easy or comfortable for you. So I'm going to show you a kind of variation that looks more like what I would use in a classroom with beginners. So that's the in breath for 4. And the count for 6 is like, that's 6. Very quickly hold for 6 and then out. Usually the beginners like to use their mouth to blow out the candles. And that's the out breath for 8. So when we continue that then, it's not that difficult. Here's how it works with your mind. As soon as it feels like it's difficult for you, you'll meet resistance. Even when you find it easy and you love it, you'll meet resistance. But you'll certainly meet more resistance when you are going to find it difficult. So start with a pace that works for you. In for 4, hold for 6, out for 8, and continue. And then as you get more used to the breath work, you'll naturally be able to breathe in for longer, hold for longer, and out for longer. But the key is the slower you breathe and the more you can control your breath, the more you will reset that nervous system that's responsible for activating, whether you're in the hyperactive stress mode or the slower, calmer rest and digest mode. And we're never in both. We're never in one without moving into the other, unless for some reason we get stuck in the stress response. So if we want to reactivate the seesaw effect where we balance between the two and we move between the two on a daily basis, this is the breath for you. So I know this is a little bit longer than I normally do today, but I really wanted to show you that. So remember, it's 4, 6, 8 breathing. In for 4, holding for 6, out for 8, and continue for 10 in a row. Morning, during the day, and at night for 2 to 3 weeks to reset the nervous system. So it's going back to that lovely balance that we have naturally in life. And when you master that, you will see the difference in your ability to manage your anxiety as opposed to your anxiety managing you. So I hope this was helpful for you today. I really hope you enjoyed it. I look forward to seeing you. I will be back next week with some more tools and tips for mastering your anxiety, particularly short little exercises that you can do on a daily basis that can keep you on top of the anxiety as opposed to just pulling a big one out of the bag when, you know, life throws that curveball at you. And like always, you'll find me on all my platforms. So feel free to post a comment or a question. And maybe I'll see you next week in person at the Coaching Network or the Magical Manifesting Circle. I will be posting about them online if anybody's interested in those details. But for now, enjoy the rest of your week, and please let me know how you get on with that breathing exercise. It's one of the most powerful breathing exercises, and it is the one that I get the most feedback from with my students and my clients. So thank you again, as always, for joining me on JenTalks, and I look forward to seeing you all back here again next week.